Greetings, dear listener. Tonight, I invite you to journey with me to the mist-shrouded forests of Skyrim. This is the tale of Vorint, a mysterious wanderer, and Alvarin, a scholar of the divines, as they uncover the dark legacy of the Bloodmoon brood. An ancient clan of vampires once thought to be extinct. But as with all tales of Skyrim, adventures is never far behind. Before we begin, I want you, my dear listener, to take a moment, comment down below where you're from, and what time it is. Let us connect across the world, even as we journey into the heart of Skyrim's darkest myths. Now settle in, wrap yourself in your warmest blanket, and allow the world of Tamriel to carry you into the night. The moon is rising, the blood is whispering, and the forgotten vampires of Skyrim are waking once again. A thick fog hung low over the rift, twisting around the towering pines like a serpent made of mist. The night was utterly still, save for the faint shuffle of armored boots against the cobblestones. The guards patrolled with their torches held high, but the flickering flames did little to dispel the darkness. Beams of light carved fleeting pathways through the mist, only to be swallowed again as the torches passed. It was a night that even the wolves avoided, their howls absent from the chilling silence. Hidden amidst the shadows of the forest, a lone figure watched the patrols with keen interest. Cloaked in dark, tattered robes and a hood that concealed his features, the stranger moved with an almost supernatural grace. Each step was deliberate, calculated, and not a single leaf stirred beneath his feet. He was like a ghost, slipping unseen between the columns of torchlight. The guards muttered curses under their breath, nervously glancing about, as if they could feel the weight of eyes upon them. But no one saw the stranger's slow, methodical approach. As he reached the chapel, a place long abandoned by the worshippers of Arche and forgotten by all but the most desperate seekers of knowledge. The chapel's once grand facade had crumbled into ruin, its moss-covered stones a testament to years of neglect. A low murmur of foreign words escaped the figure's lips, and as if compelled by some unseen force, the heavy oak door creaked open, revealing a dark interior filled with the scent of incense and age. He slipped inside without a sound, the door swinging shut behind him, with a finality that echoed in the stillness of the chapel. The chamber beyond was a testament to forgotten faith. Rows of rotting pews stretched before a grand altar, now covered in dust and cobwebs. Candles sputtered in defiance of the encroaching dark, casting a sickly glow across the floor, strewn with old parchments and scattered tomes. There was a weight in the air, an undercurrent of dread that seemed to seep from the very stones of the place. A young acolyte, nervous and wide-eyed, stood waiting in the entrance. He cast a wary glance at the cloaked figure, before gesturing with a trembling hand. "This way, please," he whispered, voice cracking in the silence. The stranger nodded and followed, his movements so smooth and silent that the acolyte flinched when he glanced back, finding the figure almost upon him. They passed through a narrow hallway, lined with dusty shelves, reaching a large, open chamber at the heart of the chapel. In the center stood a solitary figure. Alvarin, a scholar of the divines, dressed in modest robes that belied the sharpness of his gaze. Books and scrolls were strewn about him in organized chaos, each detailing some dark legend or forbidden truth. The stranger stepped forward and pulled back his hood, revealing a face both gaunt and regal. His skin was a deathly pale, like marble robbed of warmth. Dark circles framed eyes that burned with an eerie, unnatural light. "Master Alvarin," he murmured, his voice low and steady. "I am Vorand. I seek your wisdom regarding an ancient clan, one thought to have perished centuries ago." Alvarin's gaze narrowed, his heart pounding despite his calm exterior. "And what, may I ask, is the name of this clan?" Vorand's lips curved into a thin smile, sharp and predatory. "The Bloodmoon brood. Their blood runs thick with power, and their return threatens to plunge Skyrim into a new era of darkness." Alvarin inhaled sharply. The name was a myth, a tale spoken only in the most hushed of whispers. Yet here stood a man claiming knowledge of them, a vampire whose very presence chilled the air. "Why have you come to me?" Alvarin asked, voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Because I believe you hold the key to unraveling their secrets," Vorand replied. "Help me stop them, or all of Skyrim will suffer beneath the Bloodmoon." Alvarin settled into the worn chair across from Vorand, the flickering candlelight casting elongated shadows across the crumbling walls of the chapel. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment and lingering incense, a palpable reminder of the ancient knowledge contained within these walls. Vorand's presence loomed large, a specter of dark secrets and impending dread, as Alvarin steeled himself to share the tale of the Bloodmoon brood. "Few remember the Bloodmoon brood," Alvarin began, his voice low and somber. "They were once a formidable force in Skyrim, a clan of vampires who could manipulate the tides of blood itself and command the very essence of moonlight. In the shadows of the Sea of Ghosts they thrived, conducting blood-soaked rituals under the glow of the moons, especially during lunar eclipses when their power surged." Vorand leaned forward, his intense gaze fixed on Alvarin, urging him to continue. "Their abilities were not mere folklore. The Bloodmoon vampires could bend shadows to their will, becoming nearly invisible in the light of the moons, a terrifying advantage in the dead of night. They became masters of the hunt, striking fear into the hearts of those who dared cross their path. A shiver ran through Vorin at the mention of their prowess. But how did they meet their end? He pressed, his voice almost a whisper. The tale is a dark one, Alvin replied, his gaze drifting to the dusty tomes lining the shelves. Centuries ago, the Bloodmoon brood and the Folkihar clan were embroiled in a bitter rivalry. Their ambitions clashed, leading to a war that ravaged the northern territories. The Bloodmoon vampires, driven by their desire for supremacy, engaged in brutal skirmishes against the Folkihar. Each clan sought to establish dominance, to control the ancient magics that coursed through Skyrim's veins. Alvin paused, gathering his thoughts. In the end, the war culminated in a civil strife so brutal that it nearly annihilated both clans. Betrayals ran deep, blood was spilled in torrents, and the blood-soaked earth of the north became a graveyard for countless souls. The Bloodmoon brood, in a desperate attempt to preserve their legacy, resorted to dark magic that ultimately proved their undoing. They unleashed a cataclysmic ritual that backfired, leaving them vulnerable. The remnants of their clan were hunted down, scattered like ashes on the wind. Vorin's expression darkened, the weight of Alvrin's words heavy upon him. But you said they were thought to be extinct. How is it possible they could return? That is the mystery that plagues me, Alvrin said, his brow furrowing in thought. For centuries, their name faded into obscurity, little more than a cautionary tale to frighten children. But those who practiced the old ways, who revered the moon and its cycles, spoke of the Bloodmoon's return during times of great upheaval, as if their essence could never truly die. Vorin's eyes gleamed with urgency. I believe it is happening now. I've seen the signs, isolated attacks in the north, missing townsfolk, and strange, blood-red symbols scrawled in caves and ruins. Each mark, a whisper of their dark resurgence. Alvrin leaned closer, intrigued yet wary. What do you mean? Describe what you've encountered. The first incident occurred in a small village near the shores of the Sea of Ghosts. Vorin began, his voice steady but filled with intensity. A few nights ago, I was tracking a creature rumored to be terrorizing the area. The villagers spoke of a shadow that moved with the moonlight, of figures emerging from the darkness to drag their kin into the depths of the night. I ventured into the forest, following the trail of blood. It led me to a cave adorned with those blood-red symbols. What did you find within? Alvin urged, his heart racing with the possibilities. Inside, I encountered one of their thralls, a grotesque creature, deformed and mindless, yet filled with an insatiable hunger. It attacked with a ferocity that nearly cost me my life. I fought hard, but it was the thrall's unnatural agility that unnerved me most. It moved through the shadows as if they were a part of itself, nearly blending into the darkness. Vorin clenched his fists, recalling the encounter. I barely escaped, but not before I caught a glimpse of the symbols carved into the stone walls, crimson runes that pulsed with an eerie light, A call to the Bloodmoon. Alvarin's eyes widened. These symbols, do they resemble anything from the old texts? The rituals of the Bloodmoon brood? Yes, Vorin affirmed. They match descriptions I had found in fragments of ancient scrolls, ritualistic markings meant to summon their kin, to awaken the spirits of their clan. Alvarin's mind raced, connecting the dots. If they are indeed attempting to resurrect their kind, they must be stopped. We cannot allow them to reclaim their power and plunge Skyrim into chaos once more. Vorin nodded, determination etching deep lines across his face. I fear this is only the beginning. The attacks are growing bolder, and the signs of their resurgence spread like wildfire. We must gather more knowledge, uncover their history, and find a way to thwart their plans before it is too late. Alvarin leaned back, contemplating the implications of Vorin's revelations. To confront the Bloodmoon brood, we will need allies, resources, and knowledge. We cannot face them alone. The Folkihar may hold the key to understanding what we are up against. If we can forge a tenuous alliance with them, perhaps we can glean insights into the Bloodmoon's weaknesses. Vorin's expression darkened at the mention of the Folkihar, their rivals and ancient enemies. You would seek aid from those who have their own dark ambitions? Can we trust them? Trust may not be the right word, Alvarin admitted. But knowledge is power, and we need every advantage we can muster against the threat that looms. If the Bloodmoon brood truly rises again, we must be prepared to face the darkness together. The weight of their task hung heavy in the air, a palpable tension that filled the chapel. The flickering candles cast long shadows, dancing ominously across the walls as if whispering secrets of the past. Outside, the mist rolled thicker, cloaking the world in an impenetrable shroud, while the first whispers of the Bloodmoon echoed ominously, heralding a return that could alter the fate of Skyrim forever. The chill of early evening descended upon the rift, biting at Alvarin's skin as he adjusted the collar of his cloak. Vorin stood beside him, a figure cloaked in darkness, his eyes glinting with a mixture of anticipation and dread. We must leave before night falls completely, Vorin urged, glancing to the north where the sun sank behind the jagged peaks of the mountains. The Pale Keep lies not far from here, but the path is treacherous, especially under the cover of darkness. Alvarin sighed, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing against him. He had studied the dark arts and the history of vampires, but to journey into the heart of their territory was an entirely different matter. If we must, then let us proceed, he replied reluctantly. But we should tread carefully. The rumors of unnatural occurrences in the north are not to be taken lightly. As they set off, the terrain grew increasingly rugged, the path winding through dense woods and rocky outcrops. The faint sounds of wildlife faded as the sun dipped lower, giving way to an eerie silence. The air thickened with tension, and Alvarin could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. Each rustle of leaves and snap of a twig echoed ominously in the growing dusk. Stay close, Vorin murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "We may encounter dangers beyond the natural." The first sign of trouble came suddenly. A low growl reverberated through the trees, freezing Alvin in place. Vorin gripped his dagger tightly, eyes scanning the underbrush. From the shadows emerged a pack of wolves, their eyes glinting like polished obsidian. The creatures advanced, teeth bared and growls rumbling like distant thunder. "Stand your ground," Vorin instructed, adopting a defensive stance. Alvar nodded, drawing his own weapon, a steel dagger inscribed with protective runes. The wolves circled, the tension palpable as the air crackled with impending violence. Just as the first wolf lunged, a sudden howl shattered the silence, echoing off the trees. Vorin seized the moment, darting forward and driving his dagger into the nearest wolf. Alvrin followed suit, his blade finding its mark as the two fought back against the advancing pack. They moved in sync, dodging and parrying, the chaos of battle enveloping them. One by one, the wolves fell, until only a single, injured creature remained. It whimpered and retreated into the shadows, leaving Alvarin and Vorin panting in the aftermath. "Let's move," Vorin urged, glancing nervously at the darkening woods. "They won't be the last of our troubles tonight." As they pressed onward, the landscape became more foreboding. The trees grew sparse, and jagged rocks jutted from the ground like the teeth of some great beast. A chill wind swept through, carrying with it a whisper that seemed to echo in Alvarin's mind, a warning or perhaps a taunt. The darkness deepened, shadows dancing at the corners of his vision, and he felt the weight of ancient eyes upon him. After what felt like hours of navigating the treacherous terrain, they finally arrived at their destination, the Pale Keep. Nestled within a mountain hollow, the ancient structure loomed before them, its stone walls crumbling and covered in creeping vines. It was a place of legend, spoken of in hushed tones by the locals who dared not venture near. "Behold the Pale Keep," Vorin said, his voice tinged with reverence and trepidation. "It is here that the Bloodmoon brood made their last stand, a sight steeped in dark history." Alvarin approached the entrance cautiously, noting the faint glow of moonlight illuminating the worn stones. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, and as they crossed the threshold, an oppressive weight settled upon their shoulders. Inside, the remnants of a once great stronghold lay scattered, tattered banners, shattered shields, and broken weapons. Yet, amid the decay, there was evidence of recent activity. "Look!" Vorin pointed, his voice low. Alvarin followed his gaze to the far wall, where symbols were etched into the stone, eerie moonlit sigils that pulsed softly, almost as if alive. Bloodstains marred the ground, leading deeper into the keep, a macabre trail that hinted at rituals performed in the shadows. "They were here recently," Vorin said, his expression grim. "We must be cautious. They might still be lurking." Alvarin nodded, his heart racing. "Let us investigate further. We need to understand what has transpired here." As they ventured deeper into the keep, The atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. Shadows loomed large, and every sound seemed amplified in the silence. Footsteps echoing off the stone walls, the rustle of their cloaks, the quiet thud of Alvarin's heartbeat. They entered a vast hall, where the ceiling disappeared into darkness, and the moonlight poured in through cracks in the stone, illuminating the faded remnants of a grand chandelier long since fallen. Suddenly, a sound broke the stillness, a whisper, soft and melodic, swirling around them like smoke. Alvarin felt a chill creep up his spine, and Voron's grip on his dagger tightened. "Did you hear that?" Voron asked, his voice low and tense. Before Alvarin could respond, shadows flared to life at the far end of the hall. Two figures emerged, stepping from the darkness with an elegance that sent a shiver through him. The vampires were not the feral beasts Alvarin had anticipated, but regal and composed, their movements fluid and assured. "Welcome, travelers," one of the vampires said, a sly smile gracing her lips. She had long, flowing hair the color of midnight, and her eyes shimmered with an unsettling light. "We've been expecting you." Voron's body tensed beside Alvarin. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "I am Lady Niel, and this is my companion Morhal," she replied, her tone dripping with a mix of amusement and menace. "You've ventured far into our domain, drawn by the whispers of the Bloodmoon. Tell me, what do you seek in these cursed halls?" Alvarin felt his breath catch, the weight of her gaze pinning him in place. "We seek answers," he managed to reply, steadying himself. "We know of the Bloodmoon brood's return and the unnatural events occurring across Skyrim. We wish to understand what is happening." Niel chuckled softly, the sound echoing hauntingly in the vast hall. "Curiosity can be a dangerous thing. You tread a fine line between knowledge and peril. The Bloodmoon rises once more, but not all is as it seems." She stepped closer, her presence commanding, the shadows swirling around her as if obeying her will. "Your arrival was foretold. The time has come for the Bloodmoon to reclaim its power." Alvarin exchanged a worried glance with Voron. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice steady despite the fear creeping into his heart. "Bloodmoon's return heralds a reckoning, not just for the brood but for all of Skyrim," Niel replied, her voice low and enticing. "You will either embrace the darkness or be consumed by it." "Enough of your riddles," Voron snapped, brandishing his dagger. "We will not be swayed by your words. We know of your clan's history, of the terror you brought upon these lands." Lady Niel raised an eyebrow, unfazed by Voron's bravado. "Ah, the tales of old, how they twist and turn with the passage of time. The Bloodmoon brood has been painted as monsters, yet there is power in understanding. We do not seek mindless destruction, we seek rebirth." "Rebirth?" Alvarin echoed, skepticism woven through his tone. "You speak of blood and death as if they were merely tools for your gain." Morhal, the second vampire, stepped forward, a sneer curling his lips. "And what would you know of power, scholar? You hide behind your tomes and scrolls, but you stand before the remnants of a legacy that can reshape the world." The tension in the hall crackled like static in the air. Alvrin felt his resolve wavering, the allure of their promises pulling at the edges of his mind. But he remembered the stories of the Bloodmoon brood, the darkness they had unleashed upon Skyrim, the suffering they had caused. "We will not be your pawns," Vorin declared, voice firm. "We will expose your intentions and stop you from rising again." Niel's smile widened, and for a moment, her gaze turned predatory. "Then you are indeed brave, or foolish. But bravery often leads to unintended consequences. The choice is yours. Join us, and together we can usher in a new era. Resist, and you will find yourself swept away by the tides of darkness." Alvrin stepped forward, heart pounding. "We will not be intimidated by threats or promises of power. The Bloodmoon brood has haunted Skyrim long enough. We will fight to protect the land from your darkness." With a flick of her wrist, Niel's demeanor shifted, and the air around them charged with palpable energy. "So be it," she said softly. "You will learn the true meaning of fear. The blood moon will rise, and you shall not be able to stop it." As her words lingered in the air, Alvrin felt the shadows closing around them, and he knew their encounter with the Bloodmoon brood had only just begun. In that moment, the weight of the past loomed heavily, and the darkness of the Pale Keep whispered promises of blood and power, intertwining with the fate of Skyrim itself. Vorand and Alvrin were led deeper into the Pale Keep, the air thickening with a sense of foreboding. They traversed narrow corridors lined with ancient stone, dimly lit by flickering torches that cast long, dancing shadows upon the walls. The atmosphere was heavy, laden with the memories of a forgotten time when the Bloodmoon brood reigned supreme. Finally, they arrived at the innermost sanctum, a grand chamber adorned with ornate carvings depicting the moon in various phases, each one more grotesque than the last. In the center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a blood-red gemstone that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat echoing through the ages. At the far end of the chamber, Lady Niel awaited them, her presence commanding and imposing. She was a vision of ethereal beauty, with raven black hair cascading like a dark waterfall around her shoulders. Her skin was pale as moonlight, and her eyes shimmered with an otherworldly glow that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of their souls. Alvrin felt a chill race down his spine, as if she were a predator surveying her prey. "Welcome, travelers," she intoned, her voice smooth yet edged with menace. "You have come far to seek the truth of the Bloodmoon brood. You are brave, or perhaps foolish." She stepped closer, and the shadows seemed to dance around her, obeying her every move. Vorand, standing rigid beside Alvrin, held his ground. "We seek to understand your clan's return and the threat it poses to Skyrim," he said, his voice steady despite the chill in the air. Lady Niel's lips curved into a faint smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. Ah, but the past is but a reflection of the present. The Bloodmoon brood did not return to seek vengeance but to reclaim our rightful place in the world. We withdrew into the shadows, biding our time, escaping persecution by those who feared our power. Alvrin exchanged a glance with Vorand, sensing the weight of her words. "And what is it you seek now?" he asked cautiously, drawing upon his knowledge of vampire lore. "What do you wish to reclaim?" "The world has changed," she replied, her tone tinged with longing. "We have watched as empires rose and fell, as the balance of power shifted. Our survival was a necessity, and now we have returned to reclaim what is ours. The blood moon is upon us, and with it comes our resurgence." With a wave of her hand, the chamber transformed. Shadows deepened, and the room was enveloped in darkness, save for the pulsing glow of the gemstone. Images flickered to life around them, visions of the blood moon brood in their prime, powerful and majestic, holding dominion over the night. Alvarin's heart raced as he witnessed rituals of blood and power, the clan summoning storms and bending the will of lesser creatures. Vorand and Alvarin were led deeper into the pale keep, the air thickening with a sense of foreboding. They traversed narrow corridors lined with ancient stone, dimly lit by flickering torches that cast long, dancing shadows upon the walls. The atmosphere was heavy, laden with the memories of a forgotten time when the blood moon brood reigned supreme. Finally, they arrived at the innermost sanctum, a grand chamber adorned with ornate carvings depicting the moon in various phases, each one more grotesque than the last. In the center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a blood-red gemstone that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat echoing through the ages. At the far end of the chamber, Lady Niel awaited them, her presence commanding and imposing. She was a vision of ethereal beauty, with raven black hair cascading like a dark waterfall around her shoulders. Her skin was pale as moonlight, and her eyes shimmered with an otherworldly glow that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of their souls. Alvarin felt a chill race down his spine, as if she were a predator surveying her prey. "Welcome, travelers," she intoned, her voice smooth yet edged with menace. "You have come far to seek the truth of the Bloodmoon brood. You are brave, or perhaps foolish." She stepped closer, and the shadows seemed to dance around her, obeying her every move. Vorand, standing rigid beside Alvarin, held his ground. "We seek to understand your clan's return and the threat it poses to Skyrim," he said, his voice steady despite the chill in the air. Lady Niel's lips curved into a faint smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. "Ah, but the past is but a reflection of the present. The Bloodmoon brood did not return to seek vengeance but to reclaim our rightful place in the world. We withdrew into the shadows, biding our time, escaping persecution by those who feared our power." Alvarin exchanged a glance with Vorand, sensing the weight of her words. "And what is it you seek now?" he asked cautiously, drawing upon his knowledge of vampire lore. "What do you wish to reclaim?" "The world has changed," she replied, her tone tinged with longing. We have watched as empires rose and fell, as the balance of power shifted. Our survival was a necessity, and now we have returned to reclaim what is ours. The blood moon is upon us, and with it comes our resurgence. With a wave of her hand, the chamber transformed. Shadows deepened, and the room was enveloped in darkness, save for the pulsing glow of the gemstone. Images flickered to life around them. Visions of the blood moon brewed in their prime, powerful and majestic, holding dominion over the night. Alvarin's heart raced as he witnessed rituals of blood and power, the clan summoning storms and bending the will of lesser creatures. Do you see? Lady Niel's voice resonated through the darkness. We are not merely creatures of the night. We are the masters of the lunar cycles, and we wield powers that surpass the understanding of mortals. During a lunar eclipse, our strength is unparalleled. We enter a state known as blood trance, a form that renders us nearly invincible, where we can bend the will of even the strongest of our kin. Voron's expression shifted, a mixture of awe and apprehension. And what of the people of Skyrim? What do you intend to do with that power? Ah, the people, Niel mused, her eyes narrowing. They are but pawns in a grander game, mere obstacles to be swept away. The world is ruled by the strong, and we will not hesitate to reclaim our dominion. Those who stand against us will find themselves extinguished. All those who submit will thrive under our reign. Alvarin swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words settle over him like a shroud. You speak of power and dominion, yet you speak little of humanity. Do you truly wish to bring fear to the land once more? Niel's gaze turned sharp, piercing. Fear is but a tool that can bind or liberate. In the end, those who fear us will come to respect our power. You, scholar, should understand this better than anyone. Knowledge can be a weapon, just as much as any blade. Voron, however, remained resolute. We will not let you terrorize the land. We will find a way to stop you. A flicker of annoyance crossed Lady Niel's face. You misunderstand your position, Voron. You are not merely an observer. You are a part of this story. You see, you are of the Blood Moon brood, descended from a branch of our clan thought lost to time. Your blood runs with the power of our ancestors. Voron's face blanched, disbelief etching itself across his features. That cannot be true. I am just a scholar, an outsider. Niel stepped closer, her voice a silken whisper that curled around them. Do not deny your heritage. The signs are clear. You have the potential to awaken the blood that lies dormant within you. Embrace your lineage, and you could lead the brood into a new era, one that binds the strength of our kind with the wisdom of the ages. And what would you have me do? Voron asked, his voice strained, grappling with the revelation. Join us, she said, a predatory glint in her eyes. Help us restore the Blood Moon brood to its rightful place. Stand by my side, and together we can reshape this world. If you refuse, you will become an enemy, a target. Your blood is precious to us, and we will not allow it to be wasted. Alvarin stepped forward, interjecting. You would use him as a pawn in your schemes? This isn't right, Niel. Power should not come at the cost of one's humanity. Lady Niel regarded Alvarin coolly. Humanity is a weakness, scholar. It binds you, limits your potential. You cannot comprehend the greatness that lies in embracing your true nature. The gemstone pulsed rhythmically, echoing the heartbeat of the keep. Vorin stood torn between his past and an uncertain future, caught in a web spun by the seductive words of Lady Niel. I need time to consider, he said finally, his voice laced with conflict. Niel smiled, and the shadows around them shifted, darkening further. You have until the next lunar eclipse to make your choice. But know this, the blood moon rises, and with it comes the inevitable. Choose wisely, for the darkness will not wait for those who linger in indecision. As her words settled in the chamber, the air thickened with tension. Alvarin felt the pull of shadows drawing closer, the presence of the blood moon brood wrapping around them like a suffocating veil. He could sense Vorin's struggle, the battle between heritage and morality raging within him. Come, Lady Niel beckoned, her voice now eerily calm. Let us explore the depths of your potential. You will not be the first to discover the power of the blood moon within you. Vorin hesitated, glancing at Alvarin, seeking reassurance. We cannot trust her, Vorin, Alvarin warned, his voice low but firm. She is a master manipulator, and the darkness she offers is intoxicating. We must resist. But Vorin's gaze remained fixed on Lady Niel, and for a moment, Alvarin saw a flicker of intrigue in his friend's eyes, a temptation that threatened to pull him into the abyss. The darkness pulsed around them, and as Lady Niel stepped further into the shadows, the chamber seemed to grow colder. The weight of the Bloodmoon's legacy loomed heavy, and Alvarin felt the chill of impending choices hanging in the air. Your future awaits, Vorin, Niel called back, her voice a sultry promise. Will you embrace your destiny, or will you stand against it? As the shadows whispered secrets of power and dominion, Alvarin knew that the path ahead was fraught with danger. The Bloodmoon's return would not be a mere tale of resurgence. It was a harbinger of chaos, and he and Vorin stood at the precipice of a darkened world. Her smile widened, a dangerous gleam in her eye. A mortal witness is essential to bind the transformation. He will see the true power of the blood moon and understand the choice you have made. His fear will only strengthen the right. Vorin's heart sank. You intend to use him as a pawn? It is not just that, Vorin, she replied, her voice cool and composed. This is the way of our kind. You must understand that power is born of sacrifice. Would you not sacrifice one for the many? His life could save countless others. I won't allow it, Vorin asserted, his voice firm. I won't put Alvin in danger. Lady Niel's demeanor shifted, her expression darkening. You misunderstand the nature of power, Vorand. It demands obedience, and it demands sacrifice. You can either join me willingly or face the consequences. The choice is yours. Retreating from her, Vorand paced the chamber, his thoughts racing. He had come to learn of the Bloodmoon brood's ancient power and their dark legacy, yet the more he understood, the more conflicted he felt. The dilemma of loyalty to Alvin and the seductive whisper of power clawed at his mind, creating a tempest of uncertainty. Meanwhile, Alvin was not idle. He had been planning their escape. The scholar had spent every moment studying the keep's layout, memorizing the guards' routines, and searching for an exit. As night fell and the moon began its ascent, Alvin approached Vorand with urgency. We must leave tonight, he insisted, his voice low and conspiratorial. If we stay, we risk everything, your life, my life. The Bloodmoon is upon us, and they will not hesitate to carry out their plans. Vorand hesitated, wrestling with his conflicting emotions. I can't abandon this opportunity, Alvin. I need to understand my heritage, my power. It could be the key to stopping them. Alvin stepped back, frustration evident in his eyes. You don't understand. You are on the brink of losing yourself. They will consume you. This isn't just about power, it's about your very soul. I will not stand by while you throw it away. The tension between them simmered, their friendship strained by the burden of choices unmade. If we run, we may never have another chance to confront this darkness. Vorand argued, desperation creeping into his voice. Alvin met his gaze, the gravity of their situation weighing heavily on his shoulders. And if you stay, you will become a part of that darkness. You must choose power or friendship, survival or sacrifice. The moon continued to climb, its light spilling through the keep's narrow windows, illuminating the tension in the air. Vorand could feel the ancestral call of blood urging him toward the ritual, promising greatness and strength, while Alvin's warnings echoed like a lifeline. As night fell deeper, the moment of truth arrived. Vorand and Alvin made their way toward the grand hall, determined to confront Lady Niel and put an end to the rite before it began. The echoes of their footsteps resonated through the stone corridors, a reminder of their shared bond, their shared fight against the encroaching darkness. However, as they reached the grand hall, they were met with a scene that sent a chill through Vorand's bones. Lady Niel stood at the center, surrounded by a circle of her followers, each one adorned in dark robes that whispered of ancient rites. Candles flickered in the dim light, casting eerie shadows that writhed like serpents across the walls. Welcome, my dear Vorand, Niel said, her voice dripping with delight. You have arrived just in time for the ritual. Before Vorand could respond, the robed figures closed in around him, the atmosphere thick with the scent of blood and incense. Alvin attempted to intervene, but he was swiftly overpowered, the cold hands of Niel's followers holding him firm. "You won't take him!" Vorin shouted, panic rising in his throat as he saw his friend struggling against the restraints. "Let him go!" Alvin yelled, defiance burning in his eyes. "This isn't your destiny, Vorin!" Lady Niel stepped closer, her expression an unsettling mix of amusement and disdain. "This is precisely your destiny, Vorin. You will ascend as a part of the Bloodmoon brood, and Alvin will witness your transformation." Vorin's heart raced, torn between the call of power and the bond he shared with Alvin. "No! I won't be part of this!" He struggled against the encroaching darkness, the ancestral pull battling with the loyalty to his friend. "Your struggle is futile," Miel said, her voice resonating with ancient authority. "You will be reborn, and your friend will serve as the binding force for your transformation." With that, the robed figures began to chant in an ancient tongue, their voices rising in a cacophony that echoed through the chamber. The air shimmered, thick with the energy of the blood moon, as Vorin felt the weight of his ancestry pressing down upon him. "Vorin!" Alvin cried out, his voice a desperate plea against the encroaching darkness. "Don't give in! Fight it! You are not just blood, you are more than this!" Vorin's heart surged with conflict as the power of the blood moon enveloped him, the allure of immortality beckoning. He glanced at Alvin, whose expression was filled with a mixture of fear and steadfastness. The bond of friendship anchored him, a reminder of what truly mattered. The ritual intensified, the shadows growing more pronounced as Vorin felt the pull of his heritage. Yet, the flicker of Alvarin's unwavering faith sparked something within him. The power was enticing, yes, but the cost of that power, of losing his humanity, was far too great. As the chanting reached a fever pitch, Vorin found his voice. "No! I refuse to be a pawn in this game. I am more than blood!" The energy of the ritual flickered, as if momentarily disrupted by his defiance. Lady Niel's eyes widened in surprise. "You dare to defy your destiny? Destiny is forged by choice, not dictated by blood!" Vorin shouted, drawing upon the strength of his resolve and the bond with Alvarin. In a moment of clarity, Vorin reached deep within himself, summoning the essence of his humanity and the memories of friendship. The shadows recoiled, the chanting faltered, and the robed figures hesitated as Vorin broke free from their grasp. "Alvarin!" he cried, racing toward his friend. "We must leave, now!" The two of them fought their way through the chaos, Vorin's heart pounding with the rush of adrenaline and the fear of what they were escaping. The Bloodmoon's power thrummed in the air, a tempest of energy that threatened to consume them both. But they would not succumb. Vorin and Alvarin emerged from the grand hall, the echoes of the failed ritual ringing in their ears, their bond unbroken by the encroaching darkness. As they fled into the night, Vorin glanced back at the pale keep, now shrouded in shadows. The ritual may have been interrupted, but the true battle lay ahead. They would not only confront the Bloodmoon brood but also face the darkness within themselves. With the first light of dawn approaching, Vorand and Alvrin raced toward an uncertain future, their friendship fortified by the trials they had endured. The rite of blood had been thwarted, but the path before them was fraught with challenges yet unseen. In the heart of the night, they had defied destiny, and perhaps, just perhaps, forged their own.